Do you think government has always been this overtly corrupt, or are we just finally seeing it because of access to information?
I actually think this is the most annoying time to be a corrupt government official, because social media is the ultimate great equalizer. So if they control
right.
the great equalizer, which is social media, why do you think so many people out of nowhere started saying how much they hate Facebook? I'm sorry, why do you hate Facebook? Well, why do you hate Facebook? Okay, so take Twitter out. Does Trump get elected? No. If Twitter is not started, your president today is Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
If Jack Dorsey and those guys don't start today, to Twitter, your president is Hillary Clinton today.
Well, she gave a great speech.
Her picture's on the wall, right? And unfortunately, she would have not had the master class, which is a shame, because that master class on how to handle loss would have never been there, right? And that Newsweek magazine would have never been there, because that Newsweek magazine would have been official. So
Kate McKinnon with that great SNL opening.
So I think all of these government officials who were able to play the games back in the days, like what what you're showing right now with what do you call it, the
redactions,
is what's that 50 years ago? What's that 100 years ago? Right. You show this right now, a person who's extremely interested in this, guess what's the first thing they're doing? What are you talking about? I'm going to Google it. Back then you couldn't Google it,
like
right?
The Kennedy files, they just buried the Kennedy files for all those years. Roswell.
Yeah, so Bob Curzon and I, he's a former chairman of LIMRA, and he sits currently, I think he as a board member for I think a consultant for Bain, and he was a former president with Hartford back in the days. A credible guy, lots of experience in insurance.
Bain Capital? That's
Bain Capital, yeah.
Mitt Romney?
Well, it used to be Mitt Romney. Yeah. Mitt's not been a part of that for a while. But yeah, Bain is a top 10 biggest hedge fund in the world. It's one of the bigger ones. Bob sits on our board. Bob and I are in Dallas last week. We're having our annual big board meeting that we have, and we're having conversations. And during lunch, he says, during dinner at Dakota's, he says, how much do you read? Like, every time I'm talking, like, how much do you read? Are you always reading? Are you always, collecting data? And we're going through it, and he asked a question about this one guy that used to be a big insurance trainer back in the days, and I Google him. And I say, you talking about this guy? He says, yeah. And then 30 minutes later, he says, when I was coming up in the game, I couldn't get an answer to any question as quickly as you just got it. The edge your generation has over me is any question can be answered like this. I had to go to the library to find the articles that guy wrote, to find the book.
Access to
because I couldn't even get the book. You couldn't go find a book. You had to wait a few weeks to go find who sells an older book of a guy. Today, boom, 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 boom. So access to information. The speed of access to information has both positive and negative. The negative to me is we get angrier faster. We have anxiety more than ever before. Stress, higher before. Arguments are higher because I want to fight you now. Back in the days, I had 30 minutes till I came home to fight my wife. Today, I can fight you right now while I'm driving and texting and calling. And
yeah. So you're literally never off the clock.
You're never off the clock. That is like heroin, man. It's so addicting right now. They used to say the average person touches this 150 times a day. What 150 times a day? It's a couple thousand times nowadays, right? But the positive side of what this has done is these politicians, the establishment, they hate this.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop them.
Well, yeah, but the scene where Joe Pistone got all these mobsters arrested, and they all walked out, and one by one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a scene like that could be happening very soon, and it needs to happen one time. That's all needs to happen.
Yeah.
To set the tone.
Publicly.
Needs to happen one time. Needs to happen one time. All these guys talk about, when's the last time you saw, a person that's with money never get arrested and all this other stuff? When's the last time you saw politicians walking up for manipulation behind closed doors and all this other stuff? I'm going to give credit to AOC, which is something I rarely do. You know what AOC said the other day? She said, I don't own any stock. Why not? She says, I think it's not fair for people in office like myself to own and invest in any stock because we have more access to information than the rest of you do.
That's a shot at Nancy Pelosi.
That's a shot at Nancy Pelosi.
And the best portfolio tracker of all time.
Exactly, the best portfolio tracker of all time. TikTokers follow what her husband does next, and boom, 88%, whatever the number is.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So, there's people like that are going to annoy the hell out of the establishment. Yeah. She's a socialist. Economically, we're completely on opposite sides.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing you may be on the same side with her, she's anti-establishment, full-on anti-establishment. So I don't think the days of playing politics and games and all that stuff. Can you pull up what Elizabeth Warren and Elon Musk just went through? Did you see that Twitter war they had?
That was great.
It was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Warren says, let's change the rigged tax code so the person of the year will actually pay taxes and stop freeloading off of everyone else. Like she's trying to get her audience.
That's not even the best one. He had two other tweets that are better.
Do you have the rest of it? You got to get the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's not it. And then Elon Musk responds and says, please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen.
Yeah. He's like, you're like that one lady that just always gets mad at everybody.
She
for
says,
no
you're
reason.
like one of my friends, old lady moms that would always angry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
To answer, Gerard, to answer your question, I think Pat's 100% right. I think the revolving door has always been there. But they've gotten to the point where this is just blatant. You know what I mean? This is so blatant, but they did not count on the social media. I wouldn't be sitting here right now being interviewed by you guys if it wasn't for Twitter and it wasn't for the social media, the XRP army utilizing it. Jay Clayton, you know, we've been hitting CNBC every day. They bring Jay Clayton on, who is a contributor to CNBC, and they ask him a question and it just says, hey, your critics say there's a conflict, and he goes, I'm not going to comment. And then they brought him on today again, and she goes, listen, everywhere I go, it's the same question. You know, are you going to address the ethics issue? And he goes, I'm not going to talk about pending litigation. There's no pending litigation about your ethics, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're questioning your integrity and you won't defend yourself. That doesn't sound like you. You were the former SEC chairman of the United States Securities Exchange Commission, and you can't answer a few questions?
But this is kind of where I'm going with that, is like, this is what it half scares me and half infuriates me. I feel like, you know, learning history from before I was alive, at least these people had the good sense to try to hide their corruption.
Exactly.
There was a fear of public retribution. Now, we may not have had access to the information, but there was a fear like, oh my God, if these people find out, we're in big trouble. That just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, what they're doing with the, you know, what the FTC is doing with the Pfizer shots, and we'll let you know what's in them. We'll let you know what we knew in 55 years. Now it's 75 years. That, on its base point, I mean, that's just so insulting. It's so infuriating that you threatened people's livelihoods. You said, you got to get this or you're not going to be allowed to fly. We're going to get you fired from your job unless you get this thing. Okay, what's in it? We'll tell you in 75 years. What? Like, bro, what? Like, and it's not just that. It's over and over and over again, the overt corruption that they do it and then they move on. And there's this air of like, yeah, we did it. What are you going to do about it?
How many times has J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs been fined for manipulating gold and silver markets? And it just keeps happening and happening. You know, if you make $1 billion, you're willing to pay $100 million fine.
Yeah, it's a good business model.
It absolutely is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, you know, the infuriate, and I don't know, is that on the public? We have access to this information, but we don't hold these people accountable? Is that on us? Is this, has this environment just created a new brand of overtly corrupt politicians that just don't care what the public thinks? They feel insulated from any sort of, I mean, Maxine Waters literally told people to go burn down American cities. Literally did. It's like, get out there. If you see people that you politically disagree with in restaurants, make it hard on them.
Yep.
You know, that's terrorism. That's the literal definition of terrorism.
Well, I mean,
using violence to promote politics is the literal definition of terrorism.
Again, that is why the people want to see an anti-establishment in the White House. That's why half the country wants to see an anti-establishment person in the White House, to see if they're going to hold those people accountable. It's the biggest part. Look, you know, they say people get into politics with the right intentions. I'm going to go correct this injustice that's happening. And you're in it for a year, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. A re-election's coming up. You need a favor. You give this guy the favor. He gives you the money. You get reelected. Now you're part of the establishment. Now your crusade, your cause, you were a true believer. You're no longer a statesman. Now you're officially what? You're part of the establishment. You're done. And they're going to hold you to it for the rest of your life. It's game over with, right? Okay. This is why a person that's coming that's not part of the establishment, that annoys the hell out of everybody, is what America needs today. Because if they talk about the stuff that these guys don't, they go to the same country clubs, they go to the same parties, they go hang out at the same places.
They were in the same fraternities in college, man.
You want to pull out what Musk said? This is the whole Twitter. It says, stop projecting. You remind me of when I was a kid and my friend's angry mom would just randomly yell at everyone for no reason. Please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen. Just look at her. She looks like she's not really that happy with her life. You know, she looks bitter and upset and
this
frustrated.
idea that Elon Musk doesn't pay taxes, it's just like, again, it's just such gaslighting. It's such nonsensical bullshit. How much do you think he pays in payroll taxes alone?
How many jobs have they created?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I want to know. How many jobs have these
infrastructure that like what have they added?
Listen,
you know,
I can tell you, I grew up in Detroit, single mother, welfare, food stamps. Growing up, I did not hate the wealthy or rich man. I want to know what he knew.
Yeah. What
can you tell me that I don't know so that I can do that? This class warfare is just gotten out of hand. You know what I mean?
Well, they're doing it on purpose.
It's like, can you imagine that we're going to only tax unrealized gains of billionaires? Unrealized gains?
Yeah. Unrealized gains.
Unrealized gains. Did that come out of your mouth? That you're going to tax someone for unrealized gains? So Elon Musk...
You're going to tax on the money you haven't made
Elon
yet.
Musk's stock price goes through the roof. We're going to tax him. But then when it crashes, when there's a recall or something, he can't write it off.
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.